Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here today for a mid-June this and that video, and I think I've been doing pretty good at keeping up on these weekly. But I'll also be covering some garden updates on this one. But anyway, if you're new, this and that is simply me covering a whole bunch of different topics to lead you back to videos I might already have, to just give you some updated tips, and also to let you know of some specific videos that will be coming out down the road. So let's get to the topics of today. I want to start off talking about the cream cheese powder. Now, if you've been following me long enough, you'll know that I've been stocking up on some different dairy powders. Now, powdered whole milk is something I've always stocked up on, and through the years learned to use it more and more in various different things. Yes, we love fresh milk, but having some powdered milk and other dairy products on hand just been really handy, and also helps us to be able to spread out the fresh things that we do keep stocked up on, like the butter and the cream cheese. So I will link to a couple of different videos I have on the dairy powders. I think I have one on the heavy cream powder, I have one on the butter powder, and then I have one just on milks in general that I stock up on. I'll put all three of those in the description box down below if you're curious. And I plan on down the road, the more I use this, I will do a separate video just on this, because hopefully by then I'll have used it in enough things that I can give you some more ideas. I was really hesitant for a long time on trying the cream cheese powder, and had assumed incorrectly that it might had some of the couple of other unsavory ingredients. So far with the Hoosier Hill Farm, the only one that I've tried that had citric acid, and I can't remember, something else added to it that's one of those questionable ingredients, was the white cheddar powder, which I love and will still use it on occasion, but because of the ingredients I really limit my use of that one. But then when I got looking closer at the cream cheese and seeing the ingredients, which I will post right here, I was really impressed, and with that alone, and thought, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a try. I'll just try one to start with. And I like to get them through the subscribe and save on Amazon, because I can save more money doing it that way, plus getting free shipping. Now that I know I really like this, I'm going to be upping the amount I get per month until I get a good stock of it in hand. So anyway, I just got this in the other day for the June subscribe and save, and just have tried a little bit of it, messed around with it, only a small amount, but enough to know I'm really liking it. Now, of course, like any powdered dairy product, it is going to have a little bit different flavor than your fresh items of that same thing. But to have something on hand that is easy to work with, has a longer shelf life, and you don't have to keep in the freezer, this is just really excellent, just like any of the other dairy products. And yes, you can take these out, and like I've done with many of them, if you're wanting to get it out of the plastic container, just put it in a quart jar, put your little liner of some kind, whether it be a piece of cloth, paper towel, or coffee filter, over the top of the powder, vacuum seal it into a jar. That's going to get it out of the plastic and help up the shelf life. Though I don't know the exact shelf life, people ask me this all the time. The package is going to say one thing, and it's always going to be much longer than what the package says. I've had powdered milks stored up for many years that are still in excellent condition, so I don't worry about that. Now, how I've tried this so far, one thing I tried doing was doing kind of half and a half blend with the white cheddar powder, because the white cheddar powder is like really salty, where this is not salty at all. And so that did actually help kind of smooth out, mellow out that flavor of the white cheddar powder. And then the other thing I did was simply, and you can do any of your herbs and spices that you dehydrate up yourself from your own garden, and I have lots of that kind of stuff as well, but I do still like to stock up on some other things, such as this 3 onion soup dip mix that I get from Mother Earth Products, and I do have a link to them down below. I love this stuff. It works so good in so many things. It's easy just to open it up and toss some into soup or dip or whatever. So what I did the other day, since I do like making a dip, I have a recipe for, I think it's a salmon dip in that one. You can use any seafood or whatever you want in it. I've done it with clams because my son loves a clam dip, but I like using salmon or steelhead in it. And same idea, but using fresh cream cheese and throwing some of this and a few other spices in. I thought, well, I didn't have any cooked salmon ready to go or anything like that, so I just made it like just with these simple ingredients, just the cream cheese powder, no special measurements. I just throw stuff together and see how it turns out. And then some of this in there. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and blend some up in front of you just so you can see how I do it. I never follow the directions on the package, but they do have a direction so you know exactly how much water to add. But when you're talking something like a dip, the amount of water you add is going to depend on other dried ingredients you add to it, or how thin or thick you want it to be. All I did was take, about a big tablespoon or two of the cream cheese powder. I sprinkled in some, maybe, I don't know, maybe about a teaspoon or so of the 3 onion soup dip mix. Again, you can use any dried onion, garlic, thyme, whatever sounds good to you. I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle in a little bit more. And then I like to put my water in just a separate, smaller container than pouring it directly from my jug, since we use filtered rainwater and we store it in gallon jugs like this. I usually get too much water if I use it straight from there, so I just pour it in there. I do this same thing if I'm actually mixing up the butter powder into a butter, which is something I rarely do. I use it for many other things, though. And you can check out that video to see how I use it. And then just keep adding it and stirring it until I get the consistency I want. And this actually turned out really good when I did this the other day. We had some leftover organic late July tortilla chips from when my son and my daughter-in-law were over the other day. I tried those and it was really good. So there you have it. It's just super easy to do. And again, you can just get fancy with it. Add some black pepper, some red pepper, whatever you want in there, and create a very quick and simple and tasty dip with this cream cheese powder. I haven't made cheesecake in forever, but I do want to try this in making a cheesecake. But I'm gonna start by making a real small cheesecake to start with. Because if that works well and has a good flavor, that might be just all the more reason to keep stocking up on that cream cheese powder. But this would also be excellent in your smoothies. If you like to make some kind of milkshake or smoothie where you like that cream cheese flavor, I could see that being really good in there. Or even in your homemade popsicles or creamsicles. I might try that. Patrick isn't a big cream cheese person, but as mild as the flavor of this is, he probably wouldn't mind it used in various different things. I could also see this being an option to use in making a tiramisu, which I have not done that in years either. But tiramisu uses a mascarpone cheese, which is very hard to find around here, and if you do, it's very expensive. But you can make a good tiramisu using a cream cheese and ricotta cheese blend. But I'm thinking if I use the cream cheese powder, I might be able to get a decent texture and consistency by doing it that way. Okay, so since I was just talking about creamsicles, I wanted to share with you, finally broke down and ordered. These are far more expensive than the ones I've been using for years. But every summer especially, I'll do this a lot of times through the winter too, but especially in the summer, I make Patrick, mostly they're for Patrick. I'll have one once in a while, but I'll make him some creamsicles based on whatever fruit we have on hand, and usually some heavy cream that I keep frozen. So I'm gonna be doing a recipe video soon, and I haven't decided yet, but I have some frozen cantaloupe and some frozen honeydew melon, both things that I got organic from the Misfits market, and I cut them up. The honeydew melon, I should have taken a picture of it. It was that big. It was massive. I have plans on making some creamsicles with that and the cantaloupe. Those both make really excellent creamsicles, and I will do a video on that. So anyway, been using the Zoku ones for years and been happy with them. They're BPA free, but again, they're still plastic. And for the first time, we had one of these things break on us last year, and I thought, well, now that I'm getting into that time of year, I like to make the creamsicles. I'm gonna finally invest in the stainless steel ones I've been wanting for a long time. So how these work, I haven't used them yet, but you got your rack here that holds the popsicle mold. You pour your mixture into the mold. You put your bottom, or top in this case, since it's upside down, on there, and then you're going to take your bamboo sticks, which are washable and reusable, and just insert it in there and then freeze it until it's set. And then when you're ready to eat them, once they're fully set, you want to just warm, it doesn't matter which ones you use, you just want to warm that up in your hands to loosen that up, and you should be able to slide that right off. And the nice thing about that is maybe you don't want to eat a whole popsicle or creamsicle all at once. You can stick it back in there and put it back in the stand. And then the thing I was happy about is it also came with extra little, I don't know what you would call these, washers, gaskets, or whatever that go in there to help hold that stick in place and also prevent leakage there. It actually came with this little sponge that is made specifically for using in these. I didn't even know it came with that. So that was pretty cool. Now, being that these are stainless steel, they're going to be a lot more expensive than your Zoku plastic ones. But if you're trying to get away from plastic, I do recommend this. It does come in 2 sizes. I'd initially thought about getting the 10, but I wasn't sure how much freezer space it was going to take up, and I prefer having 2 smaller ones, so I might get a second one down the road if I'm happy with these. We'll see once I do that video on the recipe. Some of you might remember I did a more updated video on a hair oil treatment. My other one is like 4 years old now, or older than that maybe, so it's been almost 5 years since I started my channel. But I'm just about finally, I'm running low on my original one that I had made, and this is just, I use this sometimes in my hair on the ends. Mostly I use it for my scalp. It was just to help when I went through that whole change going off the thyroid medication, and I lost a whole bunch of hair, and then going through the change of life, just everything, it was all happening at once. And so I made the hair oil treatment. It was just my own recipe, so I could rub it into my scalp and help increase my hair growth, and it's really helped quite a bit. I don't even use it all the time anymore, which is part of the reason why it's taken me so long to work through it. But anyway, here is my last recipe. I will link to this down below. So I have a lot of herbs from my own garden here, plus some red pepper, and I do grow hot peppers, but I do also stock up on red pepper flakes, and you can check that recipe out. I did not add any essential oils to this, and I may not. I'm going to try it without the added essential oils, but in that recipe video I do talk about some options for essential oils that you can use. So I'm straining this out, and I want you to see the color. See how dark that is? This is from the herbs and the red pepper. You don't have to use all of the herbs I used in here. I don't even remember what all I used. I do know I put nasturtium flowers in here, and I believe I use sage and rosemary as well, which is one of the reasons why I would normally use like sage and rosemary oil in there, but essential oil. But I'm gonna try just using the infused oil this way from my own herbs, so that, you know, I'm not using up the expensive essential oil, and I think that this should be good enough. I mean, just looking at that deep color tells me it's been very well infused. I mean, it's been sitting in here since November. So anyway, I'll be topping off my jar. Now look at the difference in color. Of course, this is thinner, so it's going to naturally look lighter, but I can tell still that this one is far better infused than this one. So again, if you're interested in my hair growth oil recipe, go ahead and check out that video. I'll be linking to in the description box down below. You guys know I've been watching the grandbaby 3 days a week, and sometimes I have to plan the meals for Patrick so that he can have something to eat, because a lot of times I just don't have the time needed to put a lot of time into a meal. And so this is where either I make a big meal on Sunday and or Saturday, make a couple of bigger meals that can get him through the 3 days, or I fall back on stuff that I've canned. And so something I tried for the first time, it's been a work in progress. Now I had done the canned meatballs. This is my own meatball recipe, and then I pressure canned them, I believe 75 minutes. I do have a basic meatball recipe I'll link to down below. Put the water in there. Some people do it without the added water, but I like the idea of having the water in there in case I want to use it as to make a gravy of some sort. And so what I've been doing, one of Patrick's favorite things is to have like a white gravy with meatballs that you serve over rice. And I'm thinking, I have an idea. I thought about this a while back. Well, usually when I make biscuits and gravy in the morning for Patrick, there's always, no matter how small I make the batch, it just seems like there's always leftover white gravy from the biscuits and gravy. So what I started doing was every time I would make that, or make anything else that had a similar type white gravy and there was leftover, I kept putting that little bit of leftover into a glass bowl with a tight-fitting lid, a snap lock container, and put it in the freezer until it was full. And then the other night, I thought, now's the perfect time to use up this gravy out of the freezer. And so I pulled it out, let it thaw. I took one of my jars of the meatballs and poured the whole thing in there, just the water that was in there and everything, because the white gravy always tends to thicken up even more once it's sat, even after it was frozen and thought it was very thick anyway. So adding more liquid to it was perfect, plus we got more flavor from the meatballs in there, and it turned out great. It was super easy, and all I had to do was cook up a side of rice to go with it and some vegetables. I do usually use vegetables in my gravy and also in the meatballs as well, so you can check out my recipe there. So that was really wonderful. And then just a couple other things to remind you. Yes, you can dehydrate up ground beef. This is going to take up less space than your canned, just plain ground beef. That's what I have here. And this is nice to have on hand, but I have found that I do like using the dehydrated ground beef better for adding to sauces like spaghetti sauce or any kind of soup or anything I want to cook it into than the canned ground beef. But this has its benefits too. It's just a way to make more freezer space. You can take your ground meats, start canning, dehydrating, making meatballs, or even making meat loaf and canning. The other thing I always forget to talk about when I'm talking about dehydrating your herbs and then your cloth liners, and part of the reason I forget to talk about it is it's something I always mean to do and forget. When you have a dehydrator like this where you've got your heat and fan coming from the top and you're using this method, take an extra one of your liners and lay it over the top of that top tray, so that when you go to lift the top of it off, especially if you still have it running and you're just going to peek at stuff, having this on there will help prevent any of the herbs from getting sucked up into the motor, as well as just keeping them all in place and not send them flying all over the place. So what I have here is some thyme. Now all this thyme right here is from the pots that you saw in my last this and that video that are on top of our old wood stove out there. And then this one is just a common garden thyme that I'm growing out front that I've had for years. And I wanted to show you this because yes, you can harvest and use those flowers. Now, like with oregano and other herbs in this mint family, the flowers are going to have much more mild flavor, but you can still eat them. They're still good. They still taste like thyme. And you can choose to make tea out of this. This would make a really good tea using the flowers. So if your thyme has already started flowering and you're trying to figure out what to do with it, cut it up and just harvest it and dehydrate it. I'm going to actually mix all this together, but since I harvest these from two different places, that's why they're separate. Plus I wanted to show you this. Or just start using those flowers and make tea. Thyme tea is very healthy for you and it's very tasty. It's one of those teas like peppermint that I don't mind having it as a tea by itself without other added things because it's just very tasty. Since I started my channel, I've been doing, usually every summer, I'll do a few videos just on herbs that are herb profiles. I have quite a few out there, but I have tons more I still have yet to cover. I do have one out that I think it was last year or the year before I did on the thyme that I will link to down below. And usually any of those videos I'm covering the benefits as well as the uses. Some of you might remember I did this video on these lanterns. Still very happy with them. Of course I haven't had to use them as much lately, but they're a battery operated lantern. We have a lot of fuel lanterns, oil lanterns, gas lanterns, and so on. But I've been really happy with these, especially for a safer lantern to have on hand and don't have to worry about any kind of fuel odor, now, especially now with the grandbaby. And it's just a pretty little lantern. But anyway, in the video, I was talking about the rechargeable battery that it does come with. And it's a battery like this. I decided to start hunting around for this particular battery. And the one that came with the lantern was a 3800 milliamp. And so that's going to tell how long that one battery can last at a full charge. And I was having a really hard time finding the 3800. I did finally find some 3500 at a place called Battery Junction, but they were all on back order, and I waited 3 months and still didn't get them in. Well, I recently did some looking around on Amazon again, because it's like I really would like to have some backup batteries, because rechargeable or not, eventually the batteries are going to give out. And what I found was really surprising. And yes, made overseas. Most of your electronics, people, are made overseas. If you have a computer or a phone, it's most likely been made overseas, or a flashlight. Anyway, so what I found was I could get this flashlight, and it's a pretty decent and bright flashlight. We're always needing flashlights around here. And it was $25 for the flashlight, and it came with rechargeable batteries, and they were the right type of battery. 8 of them, even though the flashlight only needs 1, came with 8 of these. Now, when I was trying to order those ones through Battery Junction, they were a lower milliamp, and it was going to cost me a total of $33. I finally just canceled my order, where I paid $25 for this and got 8 of these batteries plus a flashlight. So even if the flashlight is cheap and it gives out in a short amount of time, I got my money's worth just on the batteries alone. So if you're interested in that and you're wanting some backup batteries like this, these, by the way, are 5,000 milliamp hours. So that means it's going to last even longer than the ones that came with this lantern itself. And by the way, the lantern does have its own charging port. Oh, and the other thing this came with was a little charging dock for 2 of these batteries at a time. So I think that's great. So I went ahead and ordered another one, because we always need flashlights, and like I said, it was worth it just for the batteries alone. The other thing was I have a video coming out. You would have just seen one I did on laundry tips, random laundry tips, and I mentioned my homemade laundry soap. Well, since making that video, I did a little more research, because I'm always trying to find ways to better things. I've come up with my own recipe for a better laundry detergent, no soap at all, and it's working better, and I don't have to worry about soap scum building up inside my washing machine, and very happy with it, and even cheaper and easier to make than my last recipe. So if you're interested, that video will be coming out in a few weeks. Be watching for that. I'm so thrilled and excited to share this recipe with you. Not only has it been better on cleaning my clothes and better on my washing machine, the other uses, this is a multi-purpose cleaning powder is what I'm calling it. It's working better for those things as well. And then back here I started an orange mint vinegar. So this is organic orange peels from our Misfits Market oranges, plus mint from my garden, because I have tons of mojito mint. I'm always trying to find more ways to use it. Now, a couple garden related things before I close out this video. So you might have caught a glimpse of it in the last This and That video, but Patrick just recently made me a saloon style gate to going off of our deck into the main garden area. Well, that was for the purpose of keeping the chickens off the deck. We tried putting a board up, kind of that I have to step over when I'd go out into the garden, and that would help kind of deter them. But there's that one chicken that will always come up, get into my pots on my deck, pull out some of my plants, and then of course make messes on the deck. And so he got me the little gate built. I'm actually in the process right now of working on editing that video. It's 2 hours worth of video I have to go through. His videos always take the longest to edit, so sometimes 2 to 3 days editing his video. But I'm working on it right now. So if you're interested in how he built it and maybe doing something similar, be watching for that video to come down the road. But anyway, I'm loving the gate. He made it literally like saloon doors where you can walk through it either way, because the hinges he got makes it swing both ways. It's great. So I can walk through that gate with stuff in my hands. I don't have to use my hands to open the gate, and it's keeping the chickens off the deck. And then another thing was my daughter-in-law, my newest daughter-in-law, Marlene. She came over yesterday. She and Justin both work at the local store here, and she saw this Firefly garden light. It's a solar light, and she saw that and she bought it and brought it by just because she knew I would like it, and I just thought it was cute and I wanted to share it with you. And so now I have so many of those little cute little things that she's got me in the back, I decided to hang it out front off the juniper around the strawberries there. Anyway, my garden is doing so much better. We getting some spurts of warm weather. My blueberries are finally starting to do a little bit better. My tomatoes are still doing excellent, and my potatoes, I think they're the tallest I've ever seen them get. I piled some grass clippings on them, but they just keep exploding. So we'll see what kind of harvest we get at the beginning of July is when I plan on harvesting those. But of course you want to watch the plants. You wait until the plants start turning yellow and looking like they're dying, then you know your potatoes are ready to harvest. Okay, well that's it. I know these videos are getting a little longer than I like them to be, but anyway, I hope you enjoyed it and you can just kind of see what's going on around here this week. And remember to watch for those videos to come, as well as checking out the videos I'll be linking to in the description box down below. All right, well thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.